Marine reacts to why a US Marine would lose to a ninja by the Infographics Show. As always, I'm going to be posting a link to the original video channel down in the description below, so go ahead and make sure that you check them out. And also, real quick, I just want to make this very clear. This is mainly just for comedic effect, entertainment, my own opinion and thoughts. No criticism on the Infographics Show itself. It does cover a variety of different topics. But whenever there's a topic that I have a certain experience in, I'm always curious to kind of see how it relates, at least to my experience. So, no hate on the Infographics Show. Just think of this as entertainment and a little bit of comedic fun. As you can tell from kind of my smirk, I really have a bias, at least as to who would win. And in my eyes, it's kind of obvious, but curious to see kind of what the Infographics Show is actually going to show in terms of who would win. And I have done 2 videos from this channel before in the past. It was a typical Marine loadout and a day in the life of a Marine. And I spotted quite a bit of inaccuracies, although it could have been dependent on based on a lot of very many different variables. But I was curious to see kind of what their take on this is going to be. Are we looking at a one-on-one type scenario? Are we looking at a platoon size element? Are we looking at a specific type of Marine? Because I don't know the subclasses, or if there even is subclasses for ninjas. I know for Marines though, you're gonna have 0311s, you're gonna have 0331s, where typically anybody who was in weapons platoon really, or weapons company, for the most part, not everyone, were pretty strong and pretty big. And obviously for having to carry extra weapons like 240s, carrying not necessarily the tripod, but for mortarmen, it was carrying the plate, carrying the actual tube, and that shit would get heavy. So, and then for assaultmen, what do they call it? The small, just carrying extra gear, so they're always having to be a little more fit. Not all the time, but for the most part. So, and I don't even know if we're talking about they probably would have specified in the title, like say a Marsoc Marine, if that was the case. So I'm gonna assume we're going with the basic 03 Marine. And if they put in an admin Marine, it's going to depend whether or not it is a type of battle or fight that they can use all the weapons at their disposal that they would normally carry. So even an admin Marine would still be able to carry an M4 or an M16. And for a ninja, I'm assuming a sword, as far as I know, maybe a ninja star. So I know it's going to probably piss some people off, but I don't think of a ninja and think of like mysticism, mysteriousness, the whole Naruto type jutsu, whatnot. I saw a documentary on ninjas just because when I was younger, just because obviously to me they looked really cool. And from what I do remember, this is quite a few years ago, was that they're not in mostly just trying to kill people. If it came to that, they would. But that they were more like intelligence gathering, so more on the spy side of things, and that they would be the type of people who, I believe it said that they didn't even really wear all blacked out type, I guess you want to call it a uniform, but they would be more along the lines of they would be the person walking right next to you on the middle of the street. They could be your neighbor, they could be a family member you wouldn't even know. So really trying to blend in. But that's kind of all I remember from them. Without too much more talking, let's go ahead and get to the actual video. But before we do, don't forget to like, subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. Hit that notification bell right there. So you're notified every time I do upload. Sometimes I upload twice a day. Now working on them whenever I can and releasing them early the next day. That way, when you all wake up, you're refreshing a video first thing in the morning. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see why a US Marine would lose to a ninja.
This video was made possible by Wix. If you're ready to create a website, head on over to wix.com/go/infographics2019 to try out one of their premium plans right now. In one corner, we have the United States Amphibious Warriors, proudly proclaiming themselves the first to the fight. American
If you're a Marine, you'll understand what that means.
Marines have a rich history of fighting and winning some of the bloodiest battles in history. In the other corner is the ancient saboteur, spy, and assassin, the Japanese ninja. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Infographics Show's Who Would Win? Today we're pitting a US Marine up against an ancient ninja. comparing training, weapons, and techniques to decide a victor. The U.S. Marine Corps was founded on the 10th of November 1775 by Captain Samuel Nicholas, who was tasked with raising 2 battalions of combatants who would fight shipboard actions
Ton Tavern.
against the vastly superior British fleet. From their infancy, the Corps has been an amphibious and expeditionary force, whose job is to quickly respond to hostile forces and secure a beachhead for the rest of the U.S. military to break through. Sometimes this is quite literal, as the Marines are the primary amphibious force of the U.S. military. With the Army having some but not many amphibious capabilities, this means that Marine units have to be capable of taking hostile beaches and then holding them against typically superior numbers long enough for the Army to land and establish a true foothold. To accomplish this job, the Marines are equipped with everything from landing craft to their own attack helicopters, and even their own Air Force, all meant to support these dangerous and very aggressive operations. Marines undergo 13 weeks of initial training at boot camp, where
Okay, real quick, as far as the Amphibious Landing, that's really, as far it was to my knowledge, more for like people in Muse, but for us being I was part of a trap company, so we weren't ever really going to be doing that ourselves. I mean, probably if the scenario demanded it, we would. But since we were trapped, we would be more on Ospreys, operating really out of the Middle East, Kuwait. I mean, not. I mean, the big thing is that the Kuwait's supposed to be like a vacation. Like, it's not really considered a real deployment in a sense. I mean, it's kind of a meme around the Marine Corps. And yeah, I mean, for me, I was more along the lines of I don't know if you've seen it. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before, like Black Hawk Down, right? Where chopper goes down, and then if the people are still alive or the equipment's still there, we're going to go in. And if I remember, Tactical Recovery of Aircraft and Personnel is supposed to be the name of it. And obviously we have a night team and a day team. And yeah, so we would go recover people who've crashed, recover equipment or anything that we can take back with us. If not, we would have a EOD guy attached to us that would specifically be there to destroy something if we couldn't take it with us, like say the actual aircraft itself. That way, so that the enemy or the people in that area can't use it for anything else. Also, real quick, initial training with boot camp, land nav. I knew land nav a lot better coming up in not necessarily boot camp because it was barely introduced, so it was very hard for me to understand. But I understood it a lot more in SOY, and I understood it a little better in the fleet. But then after a while, it just completely went out of my head. So it's really something kind of like a mount training where you really have to refresh your skills and mindset quite a bit. So otherwise it's a perishable skill and you're going to forget it. So consistently remembering it. Marksmanship, yeah, we do shooting. We do fundamentals of the martial arts program. Essentially McMap, in my opinion, and this isn't discrediting anybody who has a black belt and has their red tabs. It looks very cheesy to me. I mean, obviously, this is more dealing with fighting in an environment where you have a certain amount of gear on, you're weighted down, and you're really, because a lot of the movements like we're taught at certain type of curb stop, and obviously if you have a boot on, that shit's going to hurt a lot worse than if you're just doing it with like your bare feet. So typically, especially even people who had done actual mixed martial arts before the Marine Corps, and we're still doing it in the Marine Corps, just like off base at certain schools or certain places, that they didn't really enjoy McMap either. So
where they learn everything from land navigation to marksmanship and the fundamentals of the Marine Corps' martial arts program. This aggressive martial arts technique has its foundations in bayonet and close quarters combat techniques, taught all the way back to the days of boarding parties aboard wooden sailing ships. During World War I, those basic techniques were supplemented with unarmed combat techniques, such as boxing, giving American Marines an edge in close quarters trench warfare. Between the two world wars, Colonel Anthony J. Biddle pulled together the various training programs under one umbrella and standardized techniques to be taught across the entirety of the Corps, with the fundamentals based on boxing, wrestling, savate, and fencing. During this transitional period, Chinese American Marines brought their knowledge of Kung Fu into the Corps, which was quickly integrated into the existing training program. In 1956, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Hayward instructed Gunnery Sergeant Bill Miller to develop a new curriculum that could be used by a Marine to quickly kill an enemy while unarmed, whether the Marine weighed 110 or 210 pounds. Miller created a new training program by pulling together various martial arts styles, such as Okinawan karate, judo, taekwondo, wushu, boxing, and jiu-jitsu. This
Maybe because I didn't pay too much attention to McMap, but definitely knew jiu-jitsu was a part of it because we got taught a lot of ground fighting, a little bit of wrestling-ish, kind of. Definitely judo, quite a bit of judo throws. Boxing, yes. Karate, wushu. I honestly feel like if they added in kickboxing or maybe Muay Thai, one of those would probably be very beneficial as well. But then again, like I say, they really got Taekwondo, so really focusing on certain types of kicks. Again, coming back to that, you would be fighting or using this most likely in a scenario where you're carrying gear. But as far as McMap itself, if anybody who's in the Marine Corps right now, what do you all think about actually that in itself? Because do you ever see yourself in a situation where you're going to be disarmed and you're having to fight barehanded? I don't think that would happen too often in today's world, just considering the amount of technology and weaponry has advanced. Obviously, this is probably more of a roots type thing where it's like it's been there for so long that it's just kind of done in a sense for tradition, kind of like with bayonet training. We don't even get issued bayonets, and I think it's more of just a traditional aspect.
This program would go on to evolve into the line system in the early 1980s, as current training was found to be too inflexible in situations that did not require lethal force, such as the peacekeeping operations Marines increasingly found themselves carrying out. This resulted in the Marine Corps Martial Arts program, still in use today, which teaches both lethal and non-lethal self-defense techniques from a wide variety of combat styles from around the world. The MCMAP system focuses on the development of mental, character, and physical discipline, and all Marines are required to achieve a tan belt qualification or entry-level qualification. And
funny story real quick. I was a 10 belt for the longest time just because I couldn't really be bothered to go any higher. A lot of my peers were gray belts because I had gotten to the fleet a little later. Now, when I was on my first deployment, I was still kicked out of my company for certain reasons. I was put on a Sec 4, which is basically I'm just standing post, right, in Kuwait. Now, when I was there, I was told, hey, you're going to be going to some classes, you're going to get your gray belt, and then you're going to go to a green belt. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So what really happened was the whole timing thing and word getting passed around was never really passed to me or even to certain others. And then at one point, I'm just told, hey, you're a green belt now. So I got a green belt without even going to a single class, which was pretty cool, I guess. I mean, I have a very basic understanding of jiu-jitsu and kickboxing myself. Before the Marine Corps and even now after the Marine Corps, I mean, obviously not as much just because COVID and everything, we can't actually spar with other people. I believe, if I remember correctly, you have to demonstrate a certain amount of moves or all the moves that you get in each belt in front of the instructor. But yeah, I mean, fuck, man. I've been at 10 belt coming into the fleet, and I was a boot or new guy, junior Marine, whatever you want to call it. I've seen people with black belts. I've rolled with people, especially with brown belts a lot, who were supposed to be like insanely good, and I had a very basic understanding of just jiu-jitsu in it of itself, and I was doing pretty well against them. Now, I don't know, it's because this person just didn't take it seriously, but it really shows you that to get the belt, at least in the Marine Corps, all you have to do is pass the test. It doesn't matter how really efficient you are.
Infantry Marines must attain at minimum a green belt qualification or a third step qualification. Other combat arms of the Corps must attain a gray belt qualification or second step qualification. Training is ongoing throughout a Marine's enlistment and supplements their continued marksmanship, leadership, and tactics training. The Japanese ninja have their origin in feudal Japan, when competing warlords often hired out ninjas to spy on their enemies or assassinate rivals. Pulling from various martial arts and unifying various techniques into a single discipline, ninjutsu, training differed from clan to clan, and each clan's training techniques and styles were very closely guarded secrets. Typically, ninjas were trained from childhood, with children singled out to continue the clan's tradition based off their physical and mental acuity. Often, the role of a ninja would be passed on from father to son or even daughter, and trained at secret camps deep in the mountains. Because a ninja could find his or herself facing off against a ninja from a rival tribe, the specific techniques and training styles of each clan were kept secret, so that a ninja could always pull off a trick a rival might never expect. While samurai of the time were overglorified brutes for the most part, much like European knights, ninjas were true specialists with a lifelong dedication to perfecting their minds and bodies for the purpose of sabotage, spying, and killing. Ninja training focused on improving speed and agility, with ninjas forced to walk with their bodies leaning forward or to a side so that they would naturally walk quickly in order to maintain their balance. Ninjas also trained to walk with wooden sandals over fresh ice in order to achieve perfect balance and learn how to tread silently. Because of their need to often break into secure fortresses or simply evade foes, great emphasis was placed on learning how to climb quickly and silently, with ninjas learning how to climb both freestyle and with the aid of climbing tools.
So kind of in a sense, adding parkour into the element or getting over obstacles that probably most people wouldn't expect you to be able to get over, picking the hardest path as well, possibly, just so that in case somebody was following you, unless they have your physical capabilities, they wouldn't be able to follow you any further.
To prove their jumping prowess, ninjas would often load themselves down with heavy rocks and repeatedly jump up and down, developing the leg muscles to incredible degrees. It was rumored that a trained ninja could leap 7 feet into the air vertically, though that might have been more than a fair bit of exaggeration.
I was going to say, that's pretty fucking, that's higher than me, and give or take a foot. But damn, dude, a lot of jump training. I mean, I did some plyometrics back in the day. I mean, definitely not with weight, and my knees would hurt.
Ninjas also placed a strong emphasis on mental training and preparedness. In order to lessen fear and boost self-confidence, ninjas learned a technique called kujikiri, or the creation of magical signs with the fingers, which was meant to assist them with self-control in moments of danger. Not believing the signs to hold any actual magical power, they were merely a mental exercise that helped the ninja calm down and handle stress while in a life or death situation. Ninjas
So kind of like a placebo effect to kind of make sure that, hey, you're fine. Just kind of refer back to your training, or refer to, or just essentially start thinking very logically. Just take a deep breath. And I guess like hands would be like a little calming effect, some sort of calming effect for them to be able to relax and start thinking more logically.
also chanted Buddhist sutras in order to remain in control of their emotions, a handy thing for a deadly assassin. Lastly, ninjas trained extensively in the use of various weapons, not just hand-to-hand combat techniques. As such, ninjas were trained to be master swordsmen, bowmen, proficient in a variety of throwing weapons, and expert horsemen. All in all, the ninja was a career professional specializing in mind, body, and soul for only one thing: killing and spying. So who would win in a matchup between the two? Starting off at range, the American Marine is going to bring his trusty M4 carbine to the battle. With the
Marines do a lot of that, a little barking, not barking, but like a little type deal. My thoughts on the ninja, at least, they're keeping them very grounded. I mean, they did specify as far as with the hand techniques that they do is more of a calming effect, or just like to try to keep calm. Other than that, in the ninja, I thought about this, and I don't know how true it might be, but considering that they were, I believe, 15th, 16th century roughly, and that they were, I'm trying to remember from the documentary, I'm pretty sure they were recorded from lower classes. I don't know if he said that in here, I don't remember hearing it, but, and then the higher classes were more the ones who would become samurais, but because they were from lower classes, I would also assume that they wouldn't, it would be very difficult for a ninja to be physically strong, at least in the beginning. I mean, it could be due to malnourishment, not having enough food, and the fact that they try to be fast and agile, that they wouldn't want to probably put on a whole lot of muscle or anything that might slow them down. Now, obviously, this is something that it's just me kind of speculating. That's something that could change with time in terms of, I mean, I'm pretty sure ninjas were paid And then obviously if you got paid, you would have better access to more food and then get even stronger, get even faster, etc., etc.
M16 proving to be a bit too unwieldy in close quarters urban combat. The M4 was quickly adopted as a replacement for the venerable rifle, though it sports many of the same features. The rifle fires a 5.56 caliber round at 2,900 feet per second, with a max effective range, or range where it can deliver accurate fire, of 600 meters.
Okay, real quick. I mean, also with the they talked about in close quarters, the M4 also has that butt stock, so you can make it a little shorter. It's not like the M16, which is essentially, we called it the fucking musket. Max effective range 600 meters. See, now I remember that being 500, and that 800 is supposed to be the area target. So I don't know about that.
For ranged combat, the Ninja brings the venerable Yumi, or Japanese longbow, to the fight. Made of bamboo, the Yumi was a powerful bow for its time that could deliver an arrow with enough power to penetrate a samurai's armor up to 30 meters, and could deliver accurate fire to a max distance of 140 meters. It's clear that at range, the Marine is the clear winner, and the Ninja has practically zero chance of survival. But what about in hand-to-hand combat? At close quarters, the Marine can wield either a traditional K-bar knife or his trusty E-tool, or entrenching tool. The K-bar is a knife first adopted as a combat knife by the Corps in 1942, and quickly became one of the most iconic pieces of military hardware in the world. The knife typically features a 7-inch carbon steel clip-point blade with a leather-wrapped handle in order to preserve the grip when bloody. The E-tool, on the other hand, is primarily used for the hasty construction of fighting positions and can be used as a shovel or locked into place as a pick. It is also, however, a terrifyingly effective close-quarters weapon, featuring sharpened edges that can easily split a human skull. The E-tool may not be specifically designed to be a hand-to-hand weapon, but like the Marines themselves, is flexible enough to be very deadly when need be. A ninja brings his trusty sword to the fight, which can come in a variety of styles, but is typically a 500mm blade that is much shorter than those used by traditional samurai. The reason for the difference in blade length becomes apparent when you consider that ninjas typically expected to fight in very close quarters and inside rooms and hallways, where the shorter blade would be much easier to wield. It was also designed to stab rather than try to cut through several layers of armor, seeking out vital points in the body and bringing very quick death. In close quarters, the ninja has the clear advantage. His sword is not only vastly superior to the K-bar combat knife, but much more wieldy than the Marine's E-tool. While a single blow from the E-tool might split a ninja's skull in half.
Okay, hold on. Now we're talking about close quarters, right? Now we're talking in terms of not using a ranged weapon. Now I understand the rifle is a ranged weapon, but for example, we don't get issued K-bars anymore, at least to my knowledge. But the K-bar is attachable onto the fucking M4 or M16 for bayonet. So I feel like, I mean, obviously in this scenario, I don't know exactly how long the ninja's sword is. I would assume it would have a longer reach. And the Marine is still carrying a Kevlar and a flak. And I'm not really too sure how a blade would actually go up against that. I mean, I've only ever heard about 7.62. The flag being able to stop a few rounds from a 7.62 before it actually cracks, and that I think in this case scenario, if you wanted it to be a little more even, you would have the Marine with the M4 or M16 and have them put the K-bar on that, and then that way it could actually be a bayonet. Because even with that, we do get some training with the with that, we do get some training with the bayonet. I mean, not a whole lot, mainly in map and a little bit in boot camp. After that, we don't do too much with it, but we do get a little bit of training. And as far as an E-tool, yeah, definitely an E-tool could be effective. I still think this one could kind of be up in the air, but going back to what I had originally said as far as the time period in which the ninjas were, I guess you would say, more active, in my opinion. Let's get that first. I think a Marine, I mean, then again, it depends on what type of a Marine time frame we're looking at. We're looking at a Marine during one of the world wars? Are we thinking about Vietnam Marine? Are we thinking about today's type of Marine? And with that, say if you just picked a Marine somewhere in the infantry, right? And you're picking, let's say you pick kind of one of the best ones from each side. I'm pretty sure the Marines are going to be a lot bigger, a lot stronger, maybe not as fast possibly. And as far as people might want to say, well, hey, strength isn't always the deciding factor. Like, I understand that, but it is a big factor nonetheless. And honestly, I could see this going either way. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of scenarios where we're actually in a close-to-close hand-to-hand combat, at least in my experience, or many moments today just because you've got guns and you can actually keep your distance. But then again, a ninja would have to close that distance. But in any case, from hand-to-hand combat perspective, with as far as weapons of this nature, I could see it going either way. It's going to depend on who from each side is actually there for that. So.
The superior speed and focus training a ninja has behind the use of her sword would dictate a clear winner. Without weapons, the result would be much the same. The average Marine is better trained in hand-to-hand combat than most members of any other military force. Yet in the end, the ninja is a professional assassin, trained from childhood to master their body as a combat tool. Marines are professional soldiers, but even their training is simply no match for a lifelong dedication to the martial arts. While
Let me tell you right now, people could start in martial arts for a long time, years, their whole life, and they could still be shit. In a fight, no matter what it looks on paper, it can always be up in the air as far as who would win. Because in a fight, you never know what's going to happen. But I just think that saying that the ninja would win just because he's trained so for whatever long, I don't think that's a good, accurate assumption. In my opinion, of course. And honestly, in my opinion, I still think the Marine would win in this scenario. In my opinion, hey, if you've got something that disagrees with it, if you think the ninja would win, please let me know in the comments below. I'd be very curious to kind of see more on that side of things.
individual encounters would vary, and there are certainly some American Marines who are world-renowned martial arts experts. On average, a close-quarters fight will always go to the ninja's superior and lifelong training. Plus, as masters of
He said always. Again, that's a big thing I really wanted to point out is you never know what's going to happen in a fight. You can kind of assume who would have the most advantages, but you never know how it's going to go down. And just assuming that they would win or that they would win every time, it's... No, I'm just going to have to say no on that.
psychology and manipulation, a ninja would simply call a Marine a soldier and kill the Marine while he spent a half hour complaining loudly about how Marines aren't soldiers. This
Oh my god! Okay, he fucking got me there. He got me there. Son of a bitch. Oh, okay. All right. I did not expect that. Yes, that is true. that is true. To an extent. I mean, some don't care, but if you do call a Marine a soldier, yes, they're going to say, hey, I'm not a soldier, I'm a Marine. And it's not even, I mean, at least in my eyes, it's not really a thing that, for the most part, that they should be mad at, but it's just like you're calling a rock an animal, essentially. Like, you're just saying the wrong word to describe something. It's like calling me by a different name, right? So... I'm really curious to see what the comments are on this video, or see if there's any Marines that are like fucking dying about that as well. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about that for a minute. Now, bear in mind, this is for funs. It's not anything to be taken too seriously. I may have raised my voice every now and then, but that's just me. Just know that this is for entertainment and don't take it too seriously. I still think in my mind that the Marine would win the majority of the time. Pretty much in every category that they had, but the way they were making it seem, at least for the ninja, it seemed like they were trying to make this seem very mystical, or the fact that just because they train from such a young age that they're some kind of this unstoppable force. And I understand this is kind of me just being biased, It's also very dependent on the type of Marine that would be in this fight, as far as, because there's very many different types of Marines. You got people that are very small and scrawny, you got people that are big, you got a variety of different people from different areas, right? Now, long distance, obviously, Marine won from a very logical perspective just because the amount of technology, mainly being the M4. Now, when it came to weapons. I really do believe that they should at least incorporate in someone using a bayonet. But then again, I understand that since we don't really use that anymore, just because it would be very rare instances where you actually be in that close of a vicinity to someone else to actually be able to use it. Now, with that, I could really see that one going 50-50 every time as far as weapons. Because we don't really do, at least for your basic grunt, we don't really do a whole lot of, or at all, like knife fighting at all. We don't really do any fighting with e-tools, at least in today's, or at least when I was in. So I really do think that one could go either way. As far as with the hand-to-hand combat, again, it's going to depend on what type of Marine you're talking about here. Now, just because Ninja's been practicing his art for however many years, ever since they were a child, does not mean that they're going to automatically be a winner. I definitely do think a Ninja will not be able to beat a Marine the majority of the time. The majority. I mean, there's always several instances where it could possibly happen, but you know, this is just a fun little video. Let me know down in the description below who you think would win, or why do you think one of them would win, and then just give a scenario. I'd be very curious to kind of see what your all input is on that. And also, real quick, if you made it this far into the video, this one came out a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, considering the video itself is only like 10 minutes. I guess just a random thing about me right now is, which obviously if this is your first time seeing this, just know that I'm going to be posting at the end of the video some little random thing about me. So I guess you could kind of just get to know me as a person, or at least know a little about me more throughout each video, not just from the actual me reacting, but just for me personally. So I guess one thing I could say is that I'm double jointed in my fingers, so I could really bend my fingers backwards, trying to get a good angle. So I used to be able to touch the back of my hand, but that's one other thing that you know about me now. So that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, really does help me out a lot. Hit that dislike button if you didn't like it. Really helps me improve the channel. If you're curious to see what's coming up next, in the description down below. You see a list of about 5 videos. Top to bottom is going to be how I view them. Until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.